Hello everyone. This is Shreya, and I'm a product designer at Flipkart. In today's talk, I'm going to be discussing about how design sprints can be used as a collaborative tool. This is something which I have been experimenting in my past companies, and we're going to be diving deep into what are the benefits of a design sprint. How is it different from agile sprints? And how they can, possibly go together. So let's get started. I'm sure most of you have looked at this door, in malls or in other places. So if you know what it is actually called, it's called as a Norman door. So what a Norman door is it looks opposite to the way it is supposed to be interacted with. So you would think that the handle is outside, so you want to pull it, but actually you have to push through the door. So why is it designed in this way, right? Was there no thought process behind this, or a design which requires explanation is really not thought through and is probably badly designed, right? So these are the things in the practical world. Now let's get into something which we as designers experience every day. That is design thinking. So if you just do a simple Google search of, if you just type design sprints on Google and just go to image tab, you would see, bunch of images which talk about a 5-step process, which goes from empathizing, define, ideating, prototyping, and testing. Right. This is a very clear-cut process which many of the companies or lots of designers use to, put ideas to practice in front of their users. So let me take you all a little bit back in time and talk about a time when I was interning at a startup. So the idea there was that we were building an exam system product, and this product is supposed to have two different interface: the examiner interface and the student interface. In the examiner interface, the examiner is supposed to create questions, different kinds, multi-select, single select, and the students are supposed to attempt it, right? Looks very easy to understand. So yeah, let's see what happened there. So what we were thinking was that we'll go from idea to launch, and build that MVP. And it's going to be a simple 3-step process. We already know the requirements, and we will go and build it and then launch the MVP. Probably after launching the MVP, we will do some learnings, and then the idea, it will go back to iterate. It will become an iterative process and go back to the idea. But it turns out that the building process obviously takes a very long time, right? It is not a short process. Building the entire examiner portal and the student portal was a very long process. And then, launching the MVP, again, going back to the learn stage and back to the idea is obviously gonna take a very long time. So what we want to instead do is iterate between idea and learn very fast. Do step 1 and step 4 instead of going through the entire circle. When you do this, your idea of exam system portal, you test it out without having to build it, and then learn from the shortcomings, learn from what your users are saying about it, learn from, do they actually understand your exam system portal? How are the students feeling? What do the examiners say? Are they able to create questions? Are students able to attempt those questions or not? So we want to shorten the process of going from idea to learn. How can we do that? Should we do agile? Should we just do scrum? There are lots of words. If you look into the internet, you have to innovate faster in order to learn faster. Reduce all the ways, reduce all the features which are not needed to go into the MVP, and hence become more efficient, right? This is all all these kind of jargons we usually hear. So, but what we have to instead do is take a step back and think why we are doing this and who we are building this for, and what value is this solution going to provide to the customer, right? And do we really need to spend our engineering effort and time and all those money into building something which might not work for our users? So what design thinking says is that it's a human-centered approach of creative problem solving. It's a mindset, it's a philosophy which has been coming from a very long time. And you have to figure out how this, design thinking process of ideating, prototyping, testing, and validating has to be used. It's just a philosophy that you need to still apply to your company, and you need to still have a process in place. So here is where design sprint comes, which is a clear process. It is a step by step, like a recipe. So it tells you what you have to do for a 5-day process, and it is very clear in its approach, and it has a clear objective and goal. So let's see how, when we follow it, what happens. So a design sprint fits exactly between the puzzle of design thinking to agile development sprints. So when you have the design thinking philosophy, connecting it to agile development environment, a design sprint will play an instrumental role to be agile and to have, so that agile can be used to become more and more design driven and more customer centric. And how that's going to happen, we are going to be seeing that ahead. While a design thinking is a more fragmented approach, in sprints we are collaborating and we are coming together. While in design thinking, we are thinking that we are just building an MVP, we are just taking a very long time to build something and test it out, spending a lot of money. While in design sprints, we are trying to fake it. Fake an idea, fake a feature, fake build it, and then get response from your team, from your users. So let's see what this design sprint was actually built by Google Ventures. And now we're going to be understanding how you can conduct a design sprint, right? So the journey of thinking of trying something new like a design sprint can be very intimidating for anyone. A company who's been just following agile UX process will first find design sprints very intimidating to start with. To give you a little bit more in-depth knowledge of what a design sprint is, it's a clear 5-day process which goes from mapping to sketching the solution, to deciding the best option, prototyping it, and testing it. Sounds very simple like design thinking, but it has its own clear set of agenda for 5 days. And at the end of 5 days, you're going to have an output. You're going to be more confident about the feature that you're going to be rolling out. You're going to be more confident about what your customers are going to see and whether will it answer your critical business questions or not. Let's say you're trying to build a travel application where the users that you are targeting are trying to make a trip, but trying to have a trip builder inside the application where they can plan a free and easy tour and trip along for their families or for their friends, whatever they're going to be needing, right? Let's say that's your goal. So what you have to do on day one is gather your team, your PMs, your designers, your researchers, and understand why you are doing this project for. If you're building a travel application, who are these users going to be and what problem are you solving? Let's say you're going to solve a problem of free and easy trip. What's the success metrics of that? A success metric for that can possibly be that your users are able to create a custom itinerary for them. Let's go ahead with that and move into what day 2 says. On day 2, your sprint team is going to be generating as many ideas as possible. And they are going to be experimenting various ways in which a user can make a possible itinerary. How can they understand what places are there around to look for at a particular travel destination? What are different food options? They're going to be sketching all the possible ideas of making a custom, free, and easy trip for your users. On day 3, all of those generated ideas that have come to build a free and easy tour for your travel application have to be dot voted by all the participants. And that has to be done based on certain criteria that you found a particular idea very interesting and that can be taken ahead based on certain reasoning. You dot vote them and all the members of the team are going to select one of that idea. On day 4, if you have a few solutioning, you're going to be creating prototypes for your travel application. Like these are the most important places to go, a flow for that. How can a user build a trip out, a free and easy trip? How can they add destination? How can they purchase ticket of nearby attraction? A representative solutioning of this concept has to be built by your team, right? And all the interaction touch points are going to be developed. Maybe day 4 would be more rigorous from design point of view, because more and more designers have to spend time to make this prototype good enough to test it with your users. And on day 5, you're going to be gathering the feedback on this prototype with your target audience. Remember, obviously, day 5 cannot come abruptly. You need to shortlist your stakeholders before you start day 1. So you have to definitely do a background work before you come to day 5, so that you can get your users on board and start testing, evaluate your product, evaluate the idea, and most importantly, evaluate that goal which you had set on day 1 for this travel application for sale. What's the outcome? Do you stop here or move ahead? It's just a prototype, right? You can scrap it. You've just spent 5 days on it. Maybe you can scrap it, or maybe you can go ahead with the idea. Understanding what the gaps are at the end of day 5 with your customers is very important to see whether you want to continue with the design sprint or not. Your product team or your leadership team would appreciate it more if they can see a tangible output at the end of 5 days. 5 days is a very short time, so they can see if it's going to be working to invest a long agile development sprint into this idea or not. Now, how do you convince your teams to try design sprint? If this is something new that they have to be trying, if they are into agile UX and they want to try design sprint, how would you convince them, right? You have to definitely wait for the right moment or a right project. It doesn't even have to be a complete project. It can just be a small idea that you want to test it for your product. Let's say this travel application only, that you want to build a custom itinerary for your users to build a free and easy trip planning. So maybe this is something new which your company is trying, and you want to see if design sprints can help here or not. You have to also understand how your team is structured and if it's right for your team structure or not. Most importantly, if you say that you have run one design sprint, document the design sprint. Document the learnings that you had at the end of 5 days, so they can practically think if they really want to invest in something like design sprint or not. We're going to be seeing ahead how we can insert design sprints in our agile development space. Now let's see how we can bridge the gaps between the design sprints and the scrum sprints. That is, the prototypes that you have built, which is the fake product, into working products. So obviously, we do not run design sprints in a waterfall process. We are working in an agile space. Continuous improvement is the agile manifesto, which we are going to be following in design sprints as well. So when we are incorporating design sprints or agile sprints, we need to understand the right moment where you need to include the design sprint again. Let's say, for example, for the travel application, you ran 2 sprints and you have a good understanding of what the users want at the end of sprint 1 and sprint 2, and you're building your custom itinerary. 2 weeks of dev sprint, 4 weeks of dev sprints have happened, and then you suddenly realize maybe I also need to collaborate with let's say a cab booking facility also. That's an interesting feature that would go in a travel app, right? You're going to a new place, you are not sure about logistics and travel travel options that can be available in a new place, and let's say you want to introduce that feature now after the end of 4 weeks of dev sprint. Now you can run a design sprint again, test that idea within 5 days, and see whether you want to really invest in it or not in terms of development. Finally, when a design sprint handoff is happening, at the end of 5 days, you have a validated learning or your prototype. All of these will go as entries to the backlog of an agile sprint, and this has to be done clearly in the form of user stories. Let's see this mapping with the help of an example. Let's take the example of same travel application where the user activity can possibly be adding tourist places of attraction to build a custom itinerary. For that, they have to visit the product page of those tourist attraction. They have to see the prices. They have to decide the timing, and then they have to keep adding all of that to a custom itinerary which they want to build for a day. So those will become the user task. User subtask can be probably doing payments for all those different tourist attraction, and definitely there's gonna be empty cases and dependency. Essentially, what you have to understand that you have to break a huge user activity into sub activity, and all of these sub activities are going to go into backlog of your development sprint. You have to think in a very modular way so that when you're communicating this to your engineering team, when you're collaborating this, you're building a shared understanding of why this breakdown has happened and why this split has been done into user story. Coming to collaboration with development team, you have to be working very closely with them when you are at the end of day 5. You might have to spend a couple of days more to make the flows even more detailed as prototype for your development sprint. Also understand the technical feasibility of the design. Obviously, there will be some gaps which your engineering team will help to understand, and incorporate the feedback for your next design sprint, so that when you're understanding how your teams are working, how your engineering is working, you can incorporate that feedback in your design sprint if it's needed. Finally, the takeaways which I think is a great learning from design sprint is, we are talking more in terms of agile space, is that you fail fast and learn and take the decisions uh, better in the next iteration. Your ideas, your suggestions from different stakeholders, be it engineering, be it product team, be it your business team, plays a very important role in that 5-day process, where one of the days you're going to be dot voting the idea. So ideas and suggestions are a key to understand how collaborative design sprints are. And a strong feedback loop obviously goes a long way to nurture your designs and build a better prototype. And finally, a better product to market. So with that note, I come to the end of my presentation. It's a wrap. And do feel free to reach out to me on any of the social media platforms. I'm available on all of the handles that you can see. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Shreya. That was really great overview of the design sprint process. I have a question actually, because I thought it was quite interesting. You brought it up at the end that the engineers might have a challenge with the feasibility of some of the ideas that you have. Do you have any examples of that happening? And have you ever brought the engineers in earlier and actually participate in the design sprint itself?
Yeah, so when you're having that first design sprint, and you're ready with very wild ideas and fancy ideas for an MVP, it might not come into market because of the technical challenges or the timeline challenges that might have. So maybe they are able to build in consecutive sprints, but in the beginning they wouldn't be ready to spend so much time on a complicated requirement. I have faced such challenges as well, where the engineering team says, we cannot do this flow, but we can possibly do a shorter version of this for V0, and then improvise it going ahead, because learning from what we did in the previous design sprint is the key ahead. So yeah.
Excellent. No, that's really good. And the other one that I've often heard people say, so the engineers is one kind of side of the design sprint. The other one is, I don't have time for this. This is 5 days of like focus on this one problem when I've got 20 other things that need to get done. So how do you handle that kind of scheduling issue?
We always have that pressure of deadline, and as designers, we think so creatively, and then all of those ideas are shut down. If they are not taken ahead, then we may feel that what hard work you have done over the time you have spent is not pushing to going to live. I think what is essential here is having that influential attitude in you, so that you can convince your team that, hey, this is the feature that's gonna make or break the experience of the user. If you put it in that way, then even if it's a very crazy feature which takes a little bit time of them, they would take it up. That's what I've observed. You have to have that influential attitude in you to convince them first that this is going to make a huge difference. Users are going to be feeling very excited if they see this is going to be the differentiating factor. Then that sweet spot, if you can attain, then there's nothing like it. Once you start convincing them, then even for your bigger ideas, they'll get convinced.